Namo Buddhaya, respected Mahasangha. Today, earlier before I came here, there are two lay devotees came to me and asked me a question. On our daily activities, we encounter a lot of problems, especially our own family members. What should we do to stay calm? What should we do to have a peaceful day? And as we all know that we live in this world, we born as a human being, we encounter a lot of problems. We encounter a lot of difficulties in our daily activities, especially our own family members, our father, mother, brother and sister, husband and wife, and our kids. Not just that, we have work, we have friends, we have co-workers, society around us, always run into problems with them. And I believe this is the reason why human beings suffer so much. And not just that alone, but there are so many things else out there. And we've been suffering with a lot of things for decades, deeply suffering, and we don't know how to get out of that mode, which is suffering mode. As a Buddhist followers, we know, we listen to the Dhamma talk, we listen to all the teachings of the Buddha, talking about mindfulness, talking about loving kindness and compassion all the time. But how do we apply that into our daily activities? This is the question, a big question for all the Buddhist followers. We, as human beings, we breathe in and breathe out every second to keep us alive. But we never pay attention to our breath. We just breathe in and breathe out, just like the way of the robot activate. And that is how we live in this world. We react so quickly, just like we breathe without mindfulness, we breathe without intention. And so when problem comes, we always react without any intention because of the old habit. We have created so many bad habits for ourselves, and we live upon those bad habits, which is the Buddha said, call those karma. And every time we react, we suffer. Every single time we react, we suffer. Now, how can we end those suffering in our daily activities? Then the answer is mindfulness. How do we apply mindfulness? Mindfulness means that we are mindful with our thought, mindful with our words, and mindful with our actions. And now that we have to stop being multitasking ourselves, we have to do one thing at the time, and then we focus on that just one thing, and then after we finish, we move to another thing to do. Because of this monkey mind, the mind is always jumping here and there rapidly, non-stop. And that is when we are not mindful, and then we just follow in all those thoughts to the past and then chasing the future. We never stay at this present moment, here and now. That is why we need to be mindful with our thoughts. So when any thought pop up, because we have thoughts rising and passing away, with 1 second there are millions and millions of thoughts. So whenever we see the thought, any type of thought, either good or bad, when that thought rise, when that thought pop up in our head, all we need to do is just observe that thought. We live based on the old habit that I mentioned earlier, that we are just react upon the thought popping up. So whenever thought pop up, we just follow that thought until the end of that thought, and then we add more imagination to that thought. That is because we are unmindful. And after following those thoughts, and then it leads to speaking out. That we will say harmful things, hurtful things to the others and ourselves. And then after saying all those harmful things, harmful words to the other people and ourselves, we also take that into actions. All those because we are not mindful. Because we are not mindful, that's why we react on that thought, we react on that words, those speech, and then come out into action, and then we regret. So when there's a thought pop up, we observe that thought, acknowledge that thought, come back to this present moment. We are not following the thought. We are not interacting with that thought. We just simply observe the thought and acknowledge it. And then when we are about to say something to the others, we always have to think twice before we say it. Because when we think twice, thinking that, oh, if I say this is harmful things. If I say this, it's gonna hurt the other, and then I will be regret. And then when we are mindful that way, we will stop saying all those things instead. We will remain silent. Same thing as actions. When we know that when we do this thing, we will hurt the other, then we will not do that. And so based on all that, we have to practice mindfulness every single day in order for us to see the thought, in order for us to see our words and our actions by practicing breathing method every single day. Earlier, I mentioned that we are breathing like a robot. Now that we are breathing, we just breathe in and breathe out. Instead of breathing like a robot, now we breathe in with intention, with awareness, and then when we breathe out with awareness, when we breathe in, knowing that there's a breath going in, when we breathe out, knowing that there's a breath going out. We put our concentration within this nostril area and observe the breath going in and out, simply observing that breath going in and out. That's all we need to do. And when there's a breath going in and out, thought will pop up, regardless if you want them or not. Thought always popping up. So when the thought pop up, all you need to do is just observe that thought, acknowledge that thought by saying silently, thought, 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 come back here to the breathing again. Then when you practice that way, you probably observing the breath going in and out, then you hear noises, any type of sound, your husband says something, your mom says something, or your kids cries. Instead of we react with anger, all we need to just observe that sound going through this ear and acknowledge that sound as sound, 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 come back to the breathing again. And then we breathe in and breathe out. To a certain amount of time, we feel tired, we feel itchy, we feel painful within this body, this physical body. Usually we will react with anger, or we give up, we don't want to practice anymore. But for the practitioners who always wanted to practice to liberate suffering, that person will just observe that sensation within this body, let's say itchy on the face, or numb by the knee, or pain. We don't react anything. Instead, we just observe that pain, observe that numb or itchy, and silently acknowledge it as sensation or feeling, come back to the breathing again. Just take your time every day to practice mindfulness that way. And then throughout the day, you do anything, you be mindful with it. Let's just say eat. Be mindful with eating. Drinking, be mindful with drinking. When you cook, be mindful with cooking. Just do one thing at a time. And one last thing, every morning when we wake up after a long night of rest, usually we will be busy doing so much thing in the morning, but now we need to change that. Instead of reach for the phone and check in the phone message or Facebook or anything like that, now we should just make your bed neat and clean on your bed, and then go to the bathroom, do your thing, and then come out. And now this is a very important message that you need to remember. When you come out from the bathroom, get a piece of paper and a pen. Even though you already memorize it, but you still need to get a piece of paper and a pen, write down the statement that I always said, today is going to be my peaceful day. The statement say, today is going to be my peaceful day. After you write that down, read it over and over with our eyes. Just read it silently with your eyes, and then after that, read it out loud. Today is going to be my peaceful day, to tell the universe that today is my day. This is my peaceful day, so that no one in this world can mess it up except ourselves. And after that, all you need to do is just be mindful with your breath for 15 minutes before you go to work, before you go to school, or doing anything else. And then throughout the day, just be mindful with one thing at a time. If you can do that, if you can start your day with just that simple message, today is going to be my peaceful day. When you give yourself that mindset, your days will be always beautiful and peaceful. So I hope that this technique will help you, will support you in this samsara and practice trying to get out of this samsara to attain the nibbana. May you all be well, be happy, and be peaceful.
We live in a world that is moving faster than our hearts can sometimes endure. From the moment the morning alarm rings to the second we lay our heads on the pillow, our days are often a blur of obligations, endless notifications, and the quiet, persistent pressure to be everything to everyone. In the hustle of our modern lives, we often find ourselves carrying a heavy, invisible weight. We yearn for a sense of peace, a quiet sanctuary where we can simply breathe and feel whole. Yet, so often, this peace feels just out of reach, hidden behind the next deadline, the next weekend, or the next vacation. We wait for the world around us to calm down, hoping that when the circumstances are just right, we will finally feel at ease. But true tranquility does not come from a perfectly organized life or a world free of challenges. The profound, life-changing truth is that while we cannot always control the rushing river of the world around us, we hold the immense power to transform how we experience it. We can cultivate a gentle, enduring peace right in the middle of our most ordinary, chaotic days. It begins with a willingness to look inward, to softly observe how we move through our lives, and to choose a new, more intentional path. This journey toward peace often starts where we feel the most friction, within the walls of our own homes and the spaces we share with those we see every day. It is a deeply human experience to encounter difficulties with the people closest to us. Our parents, our siblings, our spouses, our children, our friends, and our coworkers. These are the individuals who weave the fabric of our daily existence. Yet, paradoxically, they are also the ones with whom we most frequently clash. We bump up against their habits, their moods, and their perspectives, and in these collisions, sparks of frustration easily ignite. Why is it that the people we love and care for the most are often the ones who bring us the most profound exasperation? The answer lies not necessarily in their actions, but in our own conditioned responses. Over decades of living, we have unknowingly built deep-rooted habits of reactivity. When a family member says something that grazes a sensitive nerve, or a coworker drops an unexpected problem on our desk, we do not pause. We react instantly, fiercely, and automatically. This rapid-fire reactivity is the very engine of our daily suffering. We spend years trapped in this cycle of tension and regret, entirely unaware of how to step out of this deeply ingrained suffering mode. We read books, we listen to teachings on compassion and loving kindness, but when the moment of conflict arrives, all that wisdom vanishes, swallowed by a wave of old, familiar anger. The reason we fall so easily into these traps of reactivity is that, for the most part, we are not truly present in our own lives. Consider the simple, miraculous act of breathing. Every single second, our lungs expand and contract, pulling in the oxygen that keeps our physical bodies alive. It is the most fundamental rhythm of our existence. Yet, how often do we actually feel a breath? We breathe exactly like machines, functioning automatically, completely disconnected from the life force flowing through us. We walk, we talk, we drive, and we work in this same robotic state. We are physically alive, but our awareness is entirely dormant. Because we live without intention, we are defenseless when challenges arise. Without mindfulness, there is no space between a trigger and our reaction to it. We just snap. We lash out. We build our days upon a foundation of unconscious habits, layering stress upon stress, regret upon regret. Every time we react blindly, we suffer. We inflict pain on others, and in doing so, we carve deeper wounds into our own hearts. To break this cycle, to stop breathing like robots and start living like deeply feeling, conscious human beings, we must learn to wake up. We must learn to inhabit our lives fully, breath by breath, moment by moment. Waking up requires us to face what is perhaps our greatest internal challenge, the relentless, restless energy of our own minds. Left unchecked, the human mind is like a wild creature, jumping endlessly from one branch to another, rarely ever finding stillness. This monkey mind refuses to stay in the present moment. Instead, it drags us backward into the past, forcing us to chew on old regrets, resentments, and sorrows. Then, it propels us forward into the future, making us chase anxieties, plan for catastrophes that may never happen, and worry about tomorrow's to-do list. We are everywhere except right here, right now. In the span of a single second, millions of thoughts can rise and fall. When we are unmindful, we blindly attach ourselves to these thoughts. A memory of a past slight pops into our head, and instead of letting it pass, we grab hold of it. We feed it with our imagination, we add fuel to the fire, and suddenly, a fleeting thought has spiraled into a dark mood. This unchecked mental wandering inevitably spills out into the physical world. A stray, unobserved thought of anger becomes a harsh word spoken to a spouse. A harsh word becomes a harmful action. And once the action is taken, the heavy burden of regret sets in. The antidote to this cascading chain of suffering is the beautiful, gentle practice of observing our thoughts rather than obeying them. When a thought pops up, whether it is joyful, anxious, or angry, we do not have to fight it, suppress it, or follow it down a rabbit hole of imagination. We can simply watch it. We can acknowledge its presence without getting entangled in its story. By practicing this simple observation, we create a sacred pause. In that pause, we gain the incredible power to think twice before we speak or act. We can recognize that saying a certain hurtful thing will only cause pain to someone else and inevitably bring regret to ourselves. With this newfound clarity, we choose a different path. We might choose silence. We might choose a gentler response. We realize that we do not have to be victims of our own fleeting thoughts. By watching our minds with a compassionate, non-judgmental awareness, we dismantle the deeply ingrained habits that cause us suffering. We stop reacting, and we begin to respond with wisdom. To anchor this wandering mind, we need a steady, reliable home base, and that home base is always with us, the breath. Cultivating mindfulness is not about escaping reality. It is about grounding ourselves so deeply in reality that we are no longer tossed about by the storms of daily life. Instead of breathing like a robot, we begin to breathe with profound awareness. When we breathe in, we know we are breathing in. When we breathe out, we know we are breathing out. By gently resting our attention at the tip of the nose, we can feel the subtle sensation of the air entering and leaving the body. It is a remarkably simple act, yet it requires immense courage and patience. As we sit with our breath, the world will inevitably intrude. Thoughts will bubble up, uninvited and persistent. Our task is not to be angry at our minds for thinking, but to kindly acknowledge the thought. We can silently label it, thought, 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 and then softly guide our attention back to the breath. This practice of observing rather than reacting extends to everything we experience. Imagine you are trying to find a moment of quiet, and suddenly your children start crying, your spouse turns on the television, or the dog begins to bark. The automatic, robotic reaction is irritation. But mindfulness offers us a different way. We can listen to the noise entering our ears and simply observe it. We label it sound, 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 and return to the breath. The noise loses its power to agitate us, it just becomes part of the landscape of the present moment. The same is true for physical discomfort. When we sit still, the body will inevitably complain. An itch will arise on the face, an ache will blossom in the knee, or a sense of deep fatigue will wash over us. The habitual mind wants to scratch, to shift, to give up and walk away. But the true practitioner, the one who genuinely wishes to be free from suffering, learns to sit with the discomfort. We observe the pain or the itch without wrapping a story of suffering around it. We note it, feeling, 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 and come back to the gentle rhythm of breathing in and breathing out. Through this practice, we learn a profound truth. We can experience discomfort without suffering. We can experience chaos without losing our peace. Once we learn to find this stillness on the meditation cushion or in a quiet room, the real work begins, carrying this profound presence into the beautiful, messy reality of our daily routines. We have been sold a modern myth that multitasking is a virtue, that doing 5 things at once makes us efficient and valuable. But in truth, multitasking fractures our attention, leaving us stressed, scattered, and disconnected from the very life we are trying to manage. Mindfulness invites us to embrace the sacredness of the single task. It asks us to do just one thing at a time, and to give that one thing our absolute, undivided attention. When you sit down to eat, just eat. Feel the texture of the food, taste the flavors, and be grateful for the nourishment. When you drink a cup of coffee or tea, just drink. Feel the warmth of the mug against your palms and the steam rising to your face. When you are cooking dinner, be mindful of the cooking. Hear the rhythmic sound of the knife chopping vegetables, smell the spices blooming in the pan. By focusing entirely on the task at hand, the most mundane chores transform into moments of moving meditation. We stop rushing through our lives to get to some imagined finish line, and we start actually living every single moment we are given. This commitment to living intentionally is most crucial in the very first moments of our day. How we spend the first few minutes after waking sets the emotional tone for all the hours that follow. Usually, after a long night of rest, we open our eyes and immediately plunge into the rushing river of the world. We reach for our smartphones on the nightstand, flooding our freshly rested minds with text messages, emails, global news, and social media feeds. Before we have even taken a conscious breath, we are already reacting to the demands and anxieties of others. We must change this. We must reclaim our mornings as a quiet sanctuary. Instead of reaching for a screen, imagine starting your day with quiet dignity. You wake up, you feel the warmth of the blankets, and you get out of bed. You take a few minutes to make your bed neatly, smoothing out the sheets with care and intention. You walk to the bathroom, attend to your routine, and step back out into your room, still wrapped in the quiet peace of the early hour. You have not yet let the world dictate your mood. You are holding on to your own serenity. It is in this pristine, quiet moment of the morning that you have the opportunity to make a powerful declaration for your life. Even if you know the words by heart, there is a profound physical power in the act of writing. You take a piece of paper and a pen, and you write down a simple, life-altering sentence. Today is going to be my peaceful day. After you write the words, you look at them. You read them over and over silently with your eyes, letting the meaning sink deep into your consciousness. And then, you speak the words out loud. You let the vibration of your own voice fill the room. Today is going to be my peaceful day. In doing this, you are sending a clear, unwavering message to the universe, and more importantly, to your own heart. You are claiming this day as your own. You are setting a boundary that says no one, no stressful commute, no difficult coworker, and no unexpected challenge can steal your peace. The only person who can mess up your peaceful day is you, by choosing to react blindly. By setting this intention, you build a fortress of calm around your mind. With this intention firmly set, you sit down and give yourself the ultimate gift, 15 minutes of unbroken mindfulness. Before you rush to the car, before you dive into your work, before you start taking care of everyone else, you take care of your own spirit. For 15 minutes, you just breathe. You feel the air entering and leaving. You observe the thoughts that try to pull you away, and you gently return to the breath. You ground yourself so deeply in the present moment that when you finally do step out into the world, you are rooted like a massive, ancient tree. The winds of daily chaos may blow through your branches, but your trunk remains unshakable. And as you move through your day, From the morning commute to the evening dinner, you carry this presence with you, doing just one thing at a time, meeting every moment with grace. This is not a magical cure that makes all of life's problems vanish, but it is a beautiful, deeply practical way to navigate the inevitable challenges of being human. When you wake up and intentionally declare your peace, when you commit to doing one thing at a time, and when you learn to gently observe your thoughts rather than blindly following them, your days slowly begin to transform. The heavy, suffocating cycle of reactivity and regret begins to dissolve. You start to notice the small, beautiful details of your life that you previously rushed past. Your relationships soften, colored by a new patience and a deep, abiding compassion. You realize that true freedom is not found in escaping this world, but in learning to walk through it with a mindful, awake, and loving heart. May you embrace this gentle practice, may you find profound joy in your everyday moments, and may your days always be incredibly beautiful and deeply peaceful.